So on that note, we are going to get directly into the interview. First of all, can you just introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are?
Well, my Yoruba name is Jabade, which means born close to royalty. And it's kind of like a royal title that I meet a lot of Yoruba people, and sometimes they ask me, do you know what that name means? Yeah, I do. And it's a royal name. It carries the connotation of having respect for the female force. And like people say, my government name is Shadre. And yeah. And I started on this journey around 68 years ago. And I started studying about me, us, the world, because African history is world history. When you do an assessment of looking at history, then you find that black people were the early population in China, Japan, India, Iraq, Iran, definitely all over Africa, and the world in general. So I started studying about us for around 63 years I've been on this path. So
wow.
I just wanted to learn, wanted to know about African people. I read about people like Marcus Garvey, who asked the question, where's our Plato? Where's our Aristotle? And Dr. John Henry Clark, I often heard him say that he worked for a lawyer when he was coming up as a kid, and the lawyer had a immense library, and he was reading about other people, and he said, where are historians, and where are the things that we did in history? And the lawyer told him, well, John, I'm sad to say that you come from a people that have no history. Nothing can be further from the truth, because there is no such a thing as people not having a history. And because history, if you defined it, it is merely the sequence of events. So any event that happened, that's history. If a leaf falls off a tree and somebody's seen it, that's history. So history is definitely the sequence of events. So I start studying about us, about me, and because if you don't know where you've been, you can't know where you're going.
Right.
And that's a critical thing that we need to inculcate into our behavior. Should be our prime directive. So I studied a whole bunch of disciplines, many things, because I had a grandfather that come from a people that they were all Masons and Eastern Stars, my great aunts and mother and grandmother and all of those people. And they encouraged me to study everything.
Okay.
So my grandfather told me once, he said, son, it's not important that you know everything, but what is important, that you know something about every damn thing. Those are his words exactly. So little did I know that you're following in a tradition of ancient African priests when you do these things, because these are the people who are, that the French call griot, but the correct term is jelly. In West Africa, they're known as jelly, and various other names depending on which culture you're in, whether you're in Guinea-Bissau or Mali or whatever country you're in. And when you venture further south, the people who were keepers of this knowledge were called Inyangas and Ngangas. And when you're amongst the Zulu, they're called Sangomas. When you're amongst the Yoruba, they're called Babalawo,
Right.
Olawu, and the father of the tree, Araba, who are high priests. In Egypt, they were called Kurihebs, Sim priests, Web priests, who are the priests that deal with libations and those types of things. Amongst the people who practice Fa in Benin and Toga, they're called Bokono.
Okay.
So these are the people who are keepers of the knowledge, who are keepers of the wisdom. These are the historians. They are the people who deal with the tradition and the history of the people. And you'd be surprised of the encyclopedic amount of knowledge that these people are able to retain. So it's in that tradition that I come up with being encouraged to learn about us and keep this information and pass this information on to people who come up, because in our tradition of the Nile Valley, which I'm affiliated with under Dr. Josef Jochannan, because Doc was my teacher, and I spent many days in Doc's living room where we had meetings with him. He instructed us in the things of the wisdom of the Nile Valley, where he taught us certain things that he inherited because of initiation, that he brought this system to the Western world for Black people in the Western world, this system that is known as the craft that Western Masons copy and call Masonry. The craft is the educational system of the Nile Valley Techno Complex. And it is in that system that they keep the history of the Nile Valley, and everything that was done in the Nile Valley, you had to be a member of the craft. And I laugh at people, and we laugh at people, those who are members of the craft, that when they say that some people from Israel in antiquity, called Hebrews, built the pyramids and the monuments in Egypt because they were enslaved. Not a single slave worked on a monument in Egypt, because you had to be initiated to be an architect, to be a worker in the building trade and the building craft. So no slave built perfect buildings in Egypt. So it's that tradition and traditions like it that you find all over Africa, where you find people who are men and women who are, because the first people that ruled us were not men, were women. Women were the rulers of us in Africa. And they're the ones who created the spiritual systems that would later be called, i.e., religions. So it's in that tradition that I follow, to give you some background about myself.
Yeah, definitely. No, and even because, like I said, we might not have a bunch of people on this live right now, but it is gonna go. It's gonna stay on Instagram, but it's also gonna go on my YouTube, and I'm gonna share it as well. And so, first of all, thank you so much for going through everything we have gone through to make sure that you can do this interview, because I think it's important. Like, you're such a wise soul, and even though you're not publicized like Professor Smalls or, you know, some of the other brothers, you are full of wisdom, and I think it's so important for other people to hear your voice. Somebody said, tell Baba DJ is listening.
Okay, Brother DJ, one of my old students from back in the day.
Beautiful. Yeah. So let's go to the subject of the flyer, right? Because it's such a touchy subject, and we dabbed into it. But I would love to hear your perspective on the current belief system that we have as a culture, and in what ways it could be beneficial, but how is it also destructive to how we live right now?
Well, namely, let's start with what people interpret to be religion.
Okay.
Our spirituality is not about the worship of God, contrary to what people may believe. Spirituality in and of itself is a tool to be used to solve problems. And even if you look at things from a biblical perspective or from the perspective of the Quran in Islam, it too is a system that solves problems that people getting a hold of things have become disenfranchised and misdirected because they don't understand the narrative. First of all, let's deal with the word worship. When you go back into Old English and you look at the word worship, it was not originally spelled W-O-R-S-H-I-P, but it was spelled uh, uh, it was spelled W-O-R-T-H-S-H-I-P. And they deletiated the suffix of the word worth to just keep W-O-R to become the word worship, when in actuality it means worthship. Ship is a vessel or a container. Worth is value. So when you take these words, compound words, and put them together, worthship, you are saying what is of value that this system contains. But because of semantics, they have made it look and appear to that the word worth means that you are submitting yourself to a deity. You're wearing out kneecaps, looking up in the sky and kneeling down on the ground, praying to God. But actually, worthship is an assessment of what this system contains that I can use to help me. And that's the original concept that the European took, changed it around, and made it appear to look like you are submitting yourself to a deity and always being humble and always sending up prayers and praises to the deity. God don't need you to worship it. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think they serve God. You find a reference to that in the Bible in a section called Matthew. And in that section of the Bible, it talks about Jesus or Yahshua is alleged to have said, I did not come here to be served, but I come here to serve. And the word that is translated in that part of the Bible that was written in the Coney dialect of Greek is diakonios. That comes from the Greek root diako. Diako means to run an errand. Diakonios is where you get the word deacon. And it means that you are a servant. A deacon is a servant. And the word that is used in the Bible that they translate as minister in the King James Version of the Bible actually mean in Greek to run an errand and to serve. So Jesus said, I didn't come here for you to serve me. I came here to serve you. So the general consensus is, especially amongst old people, they used to have this saying, call on who you serve. I mean, if you evil and you serve the devil, then call on the devil. But if you serve God, call on God. But you can't serve God because you can't do a damn thing for God. God do things for you. And that's right there. That's right there in the book, but people don't understand it because they don't speak these languages. They just speak English. And they just speak the interpretation that the translators did at Cambridge University, where they translate things and transliterate things into the European perspective. But you can't serve God. God serves you. So when you're dealing with that thing from that perspective, you have to put things in their proper spiritual perspective so you can get the benefit out of it. So you have to ask, what is it contained in this system that I can use to solve my problems? And that is literally what spirituality is about. Religion, you can't practice as a living being, because a lot of people, especially with the Eurocentric aspect and world view, ask the question, what religion are you? And they ask me, people ask me, I say none, because I can't practice religion. I have to be dead to practice religion. Religion comes from the Latin word religere. It means, re means to bind, legere means back. Religion means to bind back, which you cannot do unless you're dead.
Ooh, I just got chills. Wow.
You can't bind back to God unless you're dead.
Right.
So there are philosophical concepts that is ingrained and inculcated in the systems itself that permeates Africa, that created what they have today in the world, that has to go back to a paradigm that had a particular purpose in mind. And that purpose, as I said before, is problem solving. You're not going to find, even if you look at the Bible and do an assessment of it, or any holy book, it is basically the same theme rehatched from the beginning to the end. How many different ways can you commit murder? How many different ways can you commit adultery? How many different ways can you steal? How many different ways can you lie? Every book in that book, every chapter in that book is the same theme, but it's talking about different ways that it can be manifested. And it tells you about how to go about. And for the most part, we have to factor into the reality is that what was left in Israel is a skeleton with no meat. The Torah,
okay, go ahead.
The other books that became the New Testament, the Old Testament, is in actuality a skeleton with no meat. Why? Because the fundamental ritual that empowers that system, whether you call it Christianity or the ancient Hebrew religion that they call Dalit, which means door, because when you go back into ancient African cosmology and theology, like for example, in the Nile Valley in Egypt, the techno-complex, the Nile Valley techno-complex, what they call the religion is Wat, W-A-T. Wat means road. And religion is not something that is abstract. It's something that you do. Like that particular passage that talks about it deals with the methodology of, for example, they would say the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Well, when you people ask, what does that mean? Well, the Hebrew word that is used means right now, right here. So what they're not talking about the kingdom of heaven at some isolated place far away, but the kingdom of heaven is right here, right now. So that particular saying is in reference to something that you do. So with calling the religion, the spiritual system in the Nile Valley, Wat means road. The spiritual system that the common people practice was called Wat, which means road. So a road is a utilitarian thing that you use. Amongst the Hebrew people, they call that Dalit, which means door. So what they're telling you is that the spiritual system is not some faraway, isolated, abstract idea, but it is a practical thing that you practice and do right now. Spirituality is something that you do, not something you theorize and hypothesize about. You walk the road.
Okay, right.
You walk the road and you go through the door. It is something that requires physicality, a physical action. So spirituality is a physical action. Now, when you're dealing with the word spirit, if you ask people to define it, Most people are ill-equipped to define the word spirit. They'll try to use the word to define itself, as a matter of fact. But the word spirit comes from the Latin root spir, which means coil, and spira, spira, which means breath. And when you combine the prefix with a suffix, the word is spiritual. In the suffix of the word is ritual, ritual.
Ritual.
So the word is
spiritual.
Yes, spiritual. And
Mm.
you ask people what it means, they don't know. They, it's they give you all kind of abstract definitions. But what it actually means, spir is the suffix, is the prefix of the word spiral. You cannot spiral unless you're in motion. It's like water going down the drain. When you look at water in your bathroom or in your sink, as it evolutes and spins and goes down the drain. And you notice when you see certain people, certain spiritual people like the sand people, they dance in a circle. Right. The universe spirals in a circle. The galaxy spiral in a circle. The universe rotates. Tree rings and all of these things. So our church is not like the Methodist, the Episcopalian church and the Catholic church. These people go to church and they don't move. They just sit there and just look. When black people go to church, they dance and move and everything is vibrant because that's spirituality. Spirituality means motion. You can't be spiritual unless you're in motion.
So let's bring it back to that because, well, I remember I was with you. We were going in the building and Mama Roz asked you a question. And I want to go into this because this detail also goes with our process of thinking because we do need balance, right? So when Mama Roz was asking you something about religion, I don't can you bring that up again? Like, do you remember exactly what she asked you? I remember how you answered more than what she asked.
Well, she was talking about the penalties for wrongdoing.
Yes. Okay.
And which is codified in the Western world as sin.
Right. So,
and I told her, I said, sin is not so bad. I pray for sin every day and hope it never ends. And she said,
yeah.
What? Because we are taught spiritually that sin is to, if I asked a preacher friend of mine who's younger than I am, and I told him the same thing. He said, I'm going to have to pray for you. I said, well, why? I said, how do you define sin? He said, to break God's law. I said, what is it in Avri, the language that the people speak that you call Hebrew? Because Hebrew is not a language, it's a transitive verb. It's a verb of transition. It's not a people or ethnic group. It means that somebody move about from place to place and cross over. And the rivers that they're talking about, they crossed over, is called the Indigna and the Buranon by the people that Julius Apert called the Sumerians, who called themselves Usagiga, the black-headed people. They never called themselves Sumerians. And those rivers were called Indigna and Buranon. And when you crossed over those rivers, they say you Ibru. Ibru.
They say, oh, okay.
And then they begin to equate that name with an ethnic group, but it actually is an action. It's an action verb. It's a verb of transition, and that's not the name of a people. Those people call themselves Yahud, Afrim, Avrim. They never call themselves Hebrews or Hebrew Israelites. So, so I told her. I asked him. I said, "What is the name of what is that word in the language of the people?" Because you don't know. I said, you're a theologian and you don't know that. That word is kapah. The word kapa does not mean to break God's law. It means that which is missing. Now, that's not bad, but theologians try to make it seem, well, we're all born into sin. Sin is to break God's law. We all sin and fallen short of the will of God and these types of things. But that's not what that means. The connotation that carries is that in the physical world, physicality could not exist unless something was missing.
Right.
You eat food because what? You don't have food in your stomach. The stomach is missing food. You drink because you don't have fluid in your system. So you get thirsty because the fluid is missing. You go to work because you don't have money because the money is missing. And you go to get a paycheck. Even if you
So let's
travel.
get back to that because and I know this subject can go on forever, but I want to bring it back to our belief system and how it has kind of been corrupted by programming, right?
But that's all part of it. I mean, the belief system has been corrupted because people don't understand what the system is about. And they use semantics and change the meaning of words and concepts, which further delineate the people and create confusion. Like people say sin means to break God's law, but it doesn't mean that. It means that in the physical universe, something has to be missing in order for physicality to be.
So in that sense, it makes you question like the definition of sin and what it means. Is it really something that is there also to teach you about yourself versus the opposite?
Yeah, when it says you're born into sin, we are, because we are born into the concept of that which is missing. You see, if there were nothing missing in the universe, there could be no physicality. This thing we call the physical universe could not exist. I mean, let me set a scenario for you. If you got a cup of coffee, okay, or tea or something, if your cup is full, can you go and get some tea? Can you go and get a glass of water if you got water in your glass?
Right. No.
Do you want to eat when your belly is full?
No.
So if you want to take something from what someone is offering you, if they selling food or water or drink or something, you got to come with an empty cup. The contents of the cup has to be missing in order for you to benefit. That's how the physical universe operates. That's how you breathe. That's how your heart beats. Your heart flexes, then it relaxes. If your heart tense, if your muscle tense and never relax, you will die. If it relax and never tense, you will die. So it must fluctuate through full and empty, full and empty. That's how you walk. If you just stood in the same place all the time, there would be no idea of locomotion. You can't go on a journey if you stood in the same place.
Right.
Your feet have to move. Your foot has to move from where it used to be to a new location. When it does that, where it used to be is what? Missing. Kapa. So what the book is telling you and what religion is telling you is that sin or kapa, or what they call in the Medu Neter, ursu, IWSW, is predicated upon the idea of that which is not, that which is missing. So sin is not to break God's law. Sin is a basic constituent of the universe itself that must be in order for physicality to exist. And if it ever stops, the physical universe would disappear.
Wow, because we need that balance. We have to have balance.
No, you need imbalance.
Imbalance.
You see,
Right.
people, I was doing a lecture one time at House, and I asked people, who in here want balance? And everybody raised their hand. And I told them, you want to die. Because balance is equilibrium, and nothing happens in equilibrium.
So that's like the comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
That's also like the comfort zone. Okay.
So you don't want balance.
Mm-hmm.
You want balance in certain situations. Philosophically, you want balance. I'll give you a scenario. Let's say you in a relationship, you, Toni Hickman, in a relationship, you married, let's say. Your husband has a birthday, and you buy your husband a present. Your birthday comes up 3 weeks later, and he don't buy you anything. How do you feel?
I would be upset.
Okay. Okay, now, in that situation, let's say you working on a job, and you making hella money, and you satisfied. Do you want imbalance in that job so that you do something dumb on the job so you get fired? You see, on your job, you want balance because balance don't change. So the situation on your job won't change, so you continue to make money. In your relationship, you want balance because you don't want your relationship to change. So if you buy a present for your husband or your man or whatever, and he does not reciprocate and do the same thing with you, then you got a problem. Because you see, imbalance brings about reaction. Balance brings about no reaction. Because don't nothing happen in balance. And that's what you want in your relationship. You don't want nothing to happen. You want it to stay like it is. In reference to you socially getting along. But you don't want that if you're talking about growing and buying things and living a better life. Then you want imbalance.
That's powerful. Rose said, all right, Bible.
So there's a saying, it says, in Taoism, Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching, the book of the way and its powers. And he talks about the laws of opposites. And Lao Tzu was one of the Shang people, the early group of black folk who started the first dynasty in China.
Okay.
He says, in reference to the laws of opposites, he said, when beauty is known as beautiful, ugliness is there. When good is known as good, then in bad and good together go. When being and non-existence are linked like brothers forward press, while difficult and ease both in mutual current flow. The high incline to meet the low to meet the high. The after follows the before in a mutual consequency. Tone and voice unite and blend in mutual harmony. And so the sage in his doing do not on doing dwell, but he proceeds in silence, like the merit of things that come to be. Possession claims no ownership, and it produces no rewards. By claiming not, by assuming not, we will continue ceaselessly.
Wow. What book is that?
The Tao Te Ching, the book of the way and its powers, the Bible of Taoism.
Wow. Wow. So go ahead.
So he talks about the laws of opposites. So in the laws of opposites, everything got its opposite. So you have to be a master of what we call in the Nile Valley Kuri Sheta, which means the laws of opposites. It actually means, in another way, the master of the secret, which is what we call that diagram that the Greeks stole. It is a square with a square inverted 90 degrees inside of it that represents air, earth, fire, water, cold, hot, wet, and dry. It was created by the Twa. It is the first symbol of science. The first symbol that represents that before it was changed was what Westerners call the swastika. But the swastika that was used by the Third Reich in Germany rotates to the left. The African symbol rotates to the right.
Okay.
So
Wow.
you have to know the laws of opposites. You have to know how to manipulate air, earth, fire, and water, hot, cold, wet, and dry, light and dark, up and down, male and female.
And so I want to go back to what you said with the law of opposites as far as the job, because we have so many people that don't want to ruin their job. I know someone personally who they didn't want to ruin their job, but they actually ended up passing right after their job was over because they didn't get to live life. So that idea alone of just wanting to hold on to things, whether it's relationships, whether it's materialistic things or whatever, like how do you suggest that we start moving past that and actually growing more toward our spirit ritual, our higher self? Like, how do you suggest that we start moving toward that?
Well, first of all, this time slot is really ill suited to even address these types of things because
listen, we don't worry about the time. I told you, you can talk, just talk. Yeah.
But what I mean is that even if we talk for 6 hours, it's still. So let me define the word spirit. We talked about spirituality as the problem-solving vehicle, but spirit, when you ask people to define it, they don't know what it means. A ritual means esoteric methodology, and spirit is a template for energy. The prefix means energy.
Wait, hold that thought.
So,
hold that thought. I hope everybody who is watching this, I hope y'all have notebooks, because usually when he teaches us, we need to write it down. Like everything he just said is something that needs to be written down. I'm going to go back and watch it and write stuff down again. Okay, continue. So we're back on spirit. Go ahead, Bible.
The word spiritual, in the suffix of the word is ritual, ritual. Right. And you hear a lot of people, I'm spiritual, but when they see people doing ritual, the first thing out of their mouth, oh, you practicing voodoo.
Right.
But ritual is just methodology. When you put the keys in your door or the keys in your car, that's a ritual. When you put your pants on, your dress on, or whatever, that is a ritual. So when you ask people the definition of the word ritual or spiritual, it is the esoteric method of controlling energy. But the energy is small, and you have to be really tuned to even sense it. Because from small things come large things.
And so how do you tune into that?
You tune into it by mastering yourself. You come to know yourself. We have certain disciplines and methodologies that we use in secret society, which is the name Europeans give to our spiritual systems, secret society. But they're not secret because they're deviant. They're secret because you cannot take the knowledge of God and give it to undisciplined people, because they would rip the fabric of the universe. They're undisciplined. So if you give somebody some spiritual power, as soon as somebody pisses them off, they're going to use it to try to kill them and do something to them. So this knowledge is only given to certain people that have disciplined themselves and proved themselves that they are under control, and they are not swayed by the emotional duress and the things that people do, because people are like that. As soon as somebody pisses them off, they're going, well, I'll kill them. I'll mess their family up. So this same concept is in the Bible in Psalms 58 and 12. It said the glory of God is to conceal a thing, but the honor of a king is to seek out a matter. God conceals, because you can't take spiritual power and give it to undisciplined people. So the way you come to know, to be able to wield this power of spirituality, is to master yourself, to come to know yourself. In the Ewe language, in the Ewe tradition, we say, only the man who has found God inside himself can ever seek to find God outside.
Wow. Right.
So you have to come, in all African systems, it is incumbent upon the initiate to know yourself. So when people who are ignorant and wallowing in the cesspools of ignorance, they change the dynamics and the narrative of religion and spirituality, because it becomes then a vehicle for profit. And it's not about profit, it's about solving problems. So if you don't come to know yourself, it's just like I said before on other venues, African spirituality was the template of society. Our government was theocratic. It was a theocracy. And you wouldn't have the things like going on right now with this bipartisanship that happens in America, where you have this side of the aisle is Democratic and this side of the aisle is Republican. They're dealing with a dichotomy that is predicated upon the idea of allegiance to a group. In African society, the only group was what is right and what is wrong. There wasn't no bipartisanship or no two-party system. The only two-party system that existed, right and wrong. But in the Western world, they create this dichotomy so that they could have you focus on this group and that group, and in the middle, they're stealing and doing all kinds of immorality.
Right. In the name of God.
Because that's the camouflage. And then people, you got all these different denominations. Everybody think they got the answer, and none of them had the answer. I'm Catholic, we do this. I'm Episcopalian and Methodist and Baptist, we do this. And none of them do anything because they don't know what the hell they're doing, because they didn't create any of those things. Because it's predicated upon the idea that who can bend their knees the most and send things up to the heavens and to God. That's not what it's about. It's about solving mundane problems right here. That's why in the Nile Valley they call the spiritual system Wat, road, which is what you walk on, or Dalit amongst the Hebrews, because that's the door you walk through. That's why they say the kingdom of heaven is at hand, which means it's right here, right now. Something you do right here.
So I just want to go through the comments right quick. And listen, if you guys have any questions for Baba, please put it in the comments and I'll ask. So we've had a couple more people join. Rose said that's a book that she has to get, the book of opposites, the law of Taoism. Is that what you said?
No, it's called the Tao Te Ching.
The Tao.
T-A-O-T-E-C-H-I-N-G.
Okay.
Tao Te Ching.
I think
Tao means
before. I've seen it, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the Tao is the name of the spiritual system. It means the way of the universe, the way. Now, here again, you see the idea of African thought, where they call in the spiritual system the way. Where they said in the Nile Valley, Wat, the road. That they said amongst the Hebrews, Dalit, the door.
Right. It's all
Te-Ching. So Tao Te Ching.
Amazing. So if y'all have any questions while he's on here, please ask, because I have plenty that I'm still going to go through. But I just want to see if y'all have anything. If not, we'll keep going. Okay. Okay, so in the scenario that we're in right now, we know that, he just dropped off. Okay, I gotta invite him back. I think something happened. Let me see. Wow. I don't know what happened with his phone, but hopefully it didn't go dead and he'll be right back. I'm listening and I'm just like, every single thing this man says is full of power.
Hello?
Yes. Yes. Oh, okay. So we do have someone on here, Khalifa Abu Allah. He said, can the Grandmaster teacher speak on God or Lord? Tell us what that means, Baba.
He said God or
Yeah.
Lord or God and Lord?
Yeah, both. Yes.
You want to know the two separate concepts?
I guess the question
we're
is,
gonna have to do this again
okay.
when we got the camera working. I don't know why it stopped working. It's working early.
I know.
God comes from the German word Gott, G-O-T-T. Okay, and we are taught in the Western world that God means deity. And the image that they show us is some white man with a beard sitting on a throne in the clouds. God is a German word. It is strictly German. And if you do this linguistic exercise, if you vocalize the phoneme T, just say T.
T. Okay.
And now say D.
D.
Okay, now let's go back again.
Okay.
And look where you put your tongue. You say, vocalize the T.
T at the top. Mm-hmm. T.
And vocalize the D.
D.
At the same
Yes.
place. The only difference between a D and a T is what we call a frication in linguistics. Frication means the rush of air out of your mouth. A D is like what's called a dental stop.
Okay.
But a T is air coming out of your mouth. It's like it don't stop. It's a T, and it keeps going.
Okay.
But D is a dental stop. D's and T's are therefore linguistically interchangeable. So it doesn't make any difference whether you spell it D-O-T-T or G, where you spell it G-O-T or G-O-D. It's the same word.
God.
Now, when you say God, linguistically what that means is that that's a past participle of the future verb tense get. God is a past, get is future. So when you say got, that means you have it already. When you say get, that is a potential, a possibility. When the German people came up with these concepts, God actually means to own things. It's not a deity. It means to own things like timber, water rights, land. Look at what Europeans do everywhere they went in the name of God. They took land because God in their language is a past participle. It means to take things. But we think it's a deity, but it's not. It means to own material wealth. God and God is the same thing. And God is a past participle of the future verb tense get. Now, we got to stop thinking in terms of how these people have programmed us. When we run around think God is some being floating around in the sky on a throne. God means to own shit. Now, you don't believe that. Go in your wallet, any one of y'all who listening, pull out a dollar bill. Pull out a quarter. pull out a 50-cent piece. Look on there and you'll see where they have written, "In God we trust." They tell you in God we trust, but it's actually saying in GOT we trust. What does that mean? It means that if you could read that on a dollar, you have it already. And that goes back to that old adage where it says, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush.
Yes.
What it means is that put your faith in what you have, not what you're going to get. And that motto is right on the money. It means in having, we trust. Not in not getting, we trust, but in having, we trust. I mean, these white people in the secret societies put that on the money because they're speaking to their people.
And that's what I wanted to touch on too, because I remember in class, Rose put on here that we used to spend 11 hours in class learning from you. But I remember one of the specific things that you taught about was how we call on different names and how they also put these different like statues and streets and different, I guess, names that we call that also gave them power. You want to speak on that?
Yeah, because let me finish with him and then.
Okay.
The word Lord.
Okay, yes.
We know what the word God means. It means to own things. It's the past participle of the future verb tense get, and is not a deity. What has been deified is the ownership of material wealth. Lord comes from an old English word. We think it's some to do with religion and somebody in the sky, but Lord actually comes from an old English word, HLEAFWEARD. Lofvard. Lofvard. Lof becomes the word loaf. Vard becomes the word ward. Lofvard means loaf keeper, the bread man.
Do y'all? I hope y'all are taking notes. I really hope y'all are taking notes, and you can go and Google research. I suggest you do this. Right now, you have an open encyclopedia right on this live. I promise you. But do your research. But go ahead.
And you can't trust Google or Wikipedia. Okay. One of the best things you could do is get some of the oldest dictionaries you can get. Dictionaries that were written in the 1880s, because white people didn't think you were ever going to be able to read, so they told the truth. They wrote the truth. Now they want to make everything virtual, where books and libraries be a thing of the past, because they can lie and tell you certain things. You need books on etymology, and you need some of the oldest dictionaries you can find. One of the best dictionaries you can find about etymology is the Random House Dictionary of the English Language, unabridged version, printed in about 1965. I got a tabletop version right there on top of my. I got the unabridged version too. I wore out a whole bunch of over the years.
Right.
But it had sections on etymology in it, and but anyway, when you say Lord, the word Lord was not spelled that way. It was LEAFWEARD, and it was Vard. That becomes it was a High German, and it become LORD, and what it means is loaf keeper, and the one who keeps the bread. And they called the person that Lord, which became an English title of nobility, because the Lord was the person that they call a Lord was a land baron who owned hundreds and hundreds of acres of land where they grew millet, barley, wheat, rye. Not so much as corn, but barley, wheat, and rye. And and rice. So they made bread out of this. And bread was the staple of the European diet and many people around the world. Because, like that saying in the Bible goes, it said, man cannot live by bread alone. But bread was a staple at every meal. And many times that's all people had to eat was bread. But the European diet in those days was one of the most bland diets on the planet Earth because mostly what they ate was porridge, which was made from rye grain, wheat grain, and barley grain, and they would make a porridge out of it. And then they would eat bread and eat this porridge. And the life expectancy of many European people was not far beyond 40 years old. But the people who were the lords, the English title of nobility, were the people who would eat. They could eat venison, fish, wild turkey. So that stuff belonged to the Lord. But the people who were the serfs, they could not go out there and kill those animals because the Lord owned all the property and he owned all the wildlife on the property. And it was up to him whether he will allow you to kill venison, turkeys, and birds and all those types of things, and fish. So mostly their diet was composed of porridge and bread. So he inherited the title of Lord from Lofvard because he was the loaf keeper. He is the man who owned the land that grew the grain to make the bread.
And
this
I mean, in watch these old movies, you see them like they'll be calling their, I guess, master Lord. That's what they do. You're right. Wow. Go ahead.
This is why Jesus is called the bread of life. Our Lord Jesus is the bread of life because Lord is associated with bread. That's what it actually means, bread. And what it does, it deals with nourishment. In the Medu Neter, Wallace Budge and Gardiner and others, Thomas Young, and they translated the word Neb to mean Lord. But Neb don't mean Lord, it means every, all, and the template that is used, Neb is a bowl. And in the bowl, you put what? Flour and water and yeast to make bread. But that word, see, in Africa, we really didn't use plates in the sense. We used bowls to eat out of. And that bowl is a representation of the utilitarian tool that is used to sustain the body because it contained food to nourish the body. They would put the food in the bowl, neb, to nourish the body. And Medu Neter spelled forward and backwards. So when you take the word Neb, neb, that they translate as Lord, that's really a bowl to contain substance for the body. When you spell it backwards, it's B-E-N, ben, which means to procreate the seed. And this is why the Hebrews say Josef ben so-and-so and Dr. Josef ben Jochannan. It means that it carries the meaning of meaning son of. But in the Medu Neter, ben means to procreate the seed.
Wow.
And in Aramaic, that word becomes bar, B-A-R. And in Arabic, it's Ibn, I-B-N. It means to procreate the seed, or this is the son of so-and-so, such and such a man. So the way you procreate the seed is once the child is born, if you don't feed the child, then the child will die. And that bowl is the thing that contained the food to feed the person, of which bread was one of them. But you can't really say that word in Medu Neter mean Lord, as they would say Adonis, Adonai in Avri, and Avrim means Lord, because that word actually don't mean Lord, it means goat or prince.
It means goat, you said?
Yeah, those words that they say Adonai, that they translate in the King James Bible to mean Lord, don't mean Lord. It means prince or goat.
Interesting.
Because of the goat's ability to persevere where a bovine would die. Goats can live in arid areas and climb up mountains. They can damn near climb up vertical mountains. Cows can't do that.
Right.
If a cow don't have grass, he'll starve to death. Goats will eat the bark of a tree. They can eat limbs. They can eat all kinds of stuff. But cows can't do that. So the ability of it to persevere impressed these people because language is an outgrowth of the observation of nature. And these philosophical concepts that they ingrain into spirituality is based upon their observation of nature, natural phenomena, or the natural sciences, of which the goat is one of them. So many of the things you find that they translate biblically, and even in Quran and other things, don't really mean what they tell you they mean. So Lord is a bread man. He is the man that provides substance that allow you for your body to subsist and to survive. That's why he is called a Lord, because he provides the food, because he owned the land, and in order to grow crops, you need land. So the land baron was the person that they call Lord so and so. It is a function of survival in reference to nutrition rather than spiritual acquiescence or what's called quote unquote religion.
Okay. Wow. Everybody in the chat has been like, they love you. DJ said he remembers you taught them that at Rose House. Yeah.
At Know Thyself
Yes.
Academy. Yeah.
And Know Thyself Academy. Yes. Yes. And Rose said she also bought her dictionary from Half Price Books, and we all need to have one. Samaj, he's a friend of mine, and he said he loves the knowledge. He knew it was a reason he loved bread. Everybody loved bread, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Khalifa said, thanks, Baba. He said he's one of your students.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
My most favorite bread is injera.
It's what?
Injera, the national bread of Ethiopia.
Oh, yes. I've had that at the Ethiopian restaurant.
I got some in my refrigerator right now.
Huh.
Because
Interesting.
I usually buy it by the packs. They sell it for about $10 a pack. You got about I got 2 packs in my refrigerator.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And it's a fermented bread made out of tuff, one of the most smallest grains in the world.
Interesting.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so let's
And
go to the way that we end up, because I still want to get back to like the law of attraction, and I know we call it as above, so below, or there are so many ways. Someone said they had that bread yesterday. But we end up attracting a lot of, I guess, energy, or pulling energy or calling on energy for this system versus calling on it for us. And I know that's something that, I have learned from you, as far as like, even when we go down one of the streets that Abraham Lincoln, or if we're going to a school that is named after one of their ancestors, like, we're steady calling on that, and that gives them power. You want to go into that a little bit more?
well, fundamentally, there's a concept that exists called thought, word, and deed. And when this universe, what we call the universe, was created by this entity that Westerners call God, that we call in the Nile Valley, Wa Ente Senu. Wa Ente Senu is not Ptah. It is not Amun Ra. It is not Kanum. It is none of these. Matter of fact, Wa Ente Senu is not a name, it's a statement. It means the one who has no second.
Oh, no second, right.
In Egypt, it did not have a temple. You can find no temple dedicated to it. You can find no image of it. Because you can't make an image of the unimaginable. And you cannot have a name for the unknowable. So we didn't make images of it because we didn't name it because we don't know its name.
And naming
we call it
even decreases its value, right?
Yeah,
like even trying
because if you can name it, then you it.
Right.
So this thing, what it did, let me tell you why they use crucifixion in Christianity. In our theology and cosmology, we have a thing that Westerners, Dr. Richard King some years ago had a journal he called the Black Dot. And in our theology in the Nile Valley, in the Congo, we talked about this black dot. Before the universe existed, there was just a compressed form of matter as a black dot. And what this deity, this thing that Westerners call God, for lack of a better word, it stretched itself vertically on the y-axis, up and down. It became up and down. Then it stretched itself horizontally, the x-axis, left and right. But all this stretching came from the black dot. In the Medunache, we call this Kim Ware, the great black. Physicists call this today dark matter. And they go further to say when the universe was created, there was a big bang that came from a point. That's the same thing we said thousands of years before there was any place called Europe or any place called America or any discipline called quantum mechanics. So this thing stretched itself on the male axis, which is the Y, and the female axis, which is the X. And once it did this, it crucified itself on the cross.
Explain that. Yeah, please. How?
And they stretched Jesus out horizontally and vertically on this cross. That is emblematical of the way the universe came into existence. Because this God that we call Wa'Intesenu, as a statement and not a name, because you can't name it, it means the one who has no second. When it says it created the X and the Y axis, there was a point of condensed matter that was so compressed that it exploded and created everything you see. Now, it didn't only stretch itself up and down and right and left. It stretched itself in every direction imaginable, like a globe, with every angle, 360 degrees, all the way around from the point of the explosion. But emblematically, we show it linearly as up and down and right and left. But it actually went 360 degrees in every direction and every angle imaginable. And that is crucifixion.
What does explain crucifixion? That word alone. What does that mean in this whole?
It stretches. What the connotation that it carries is that when it was crucified, it sacrificed itself to create the universe. The universe is an extension of it. As it extended itself in all directions, that became up and down, right and left, male and female, light and dark, high and low, wet and cold. And when it did this, it sacrificed itself.
Hmm.
It crucified itself on the cross of space and time. Once it extended itself, space and time came into existence at the same time, automatically.
Right.
Now, in the Medu Neter, I keep referring to the Medu Neter because that's one of the high sciences that we have.
Right.
In the Medu Neter, when they talk about the god Ta, T-A, or that became Ptah. Now, Ta rose up out of this contracted stuff. It is not God, but it is propagated directional matter that rose up as the Tajanin, which is the primordial heel. And on top of him sit Atum. Atum means to complete. But there are many creation stories. You cannot tell creation with one story. There are many stories that talk about creation. So when you spell Ta, T-A, Ta is land or earth. If you spell Ta backwards, T-A becomes A-T, which is art, which means moment. One way is spelled land or space. The other way, backwards, is spelled time. So what that shows you is they already understood the space-time continuum long before anybody in Europe, any so-called academic pursuit, which they did not create anyway because we built the first universities in Europe. They knew about space-time because it tells you right there in Medu Neter. Ta is space, art is time, moment. So the moment Ptah, Ta rose up out of the primordial abyss, time came into existence.
Okay.
So when you're dealing with this type of thing, that they tell that story in the Christianity as Jesus, God, Son of God, being crucified on the cross. That means he's being stretched up and down, right and left, and created time and space. But they tell that story, but anthropomorphically, Jesus did not create time and space because he couldn't be crucified on the cross if space already existed.
Right.
So
Right.
you're talking about another narrative, something that preceded him by billions of years. And then they mop it all up and tie it all together and say, God and Jesus is one. He was there in the beginning. That's just a way of telling an anthropomorphic story about something that happened on a cosmological platform. So these people have taken our stuff and gave it a new narrative, and we worship it like we going crazy and don't really understand what it is that is being talked about. So you're actually dealing with the concept. There is no dichotomy between spirituality and science. Science comes from the Latin word city, which simply means to know, knowledge. And that's why Apple called their platform Siri, because it comes from the Latin word that becomes the word science.
Or even Sirius Radio. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Rose said, Know Thyself Academy said, explain the Trinity, God, Father, and the Son.
So when you're dealing with this particular aspect, this rabbit hole goes a whole lot deeper than people imagine or are capable of imagining. Because don't be tricked by these people who call themselves theologians. There's certain things that we can study, and there's certain things we can't. So we can't study the one who has no second, because study requires a concept in science, isolation. And you can't isolate God. So you can't study God. Theology is the study of God, but that's a false idea from the Greek. In order to study God, you have to isolate it. And you can't isolate it because it encompasses everything that is in existence. So you can't put it in a petri dish and watch what it does. You can't isolate it. So what we call the concept of God operates outside of what we know as space-time. And that's why it is the thing that has no second. That's what we called it. We had no temple for it. We had no priesthood for it. And we had no name for it. And in the Hebrew tradition, Moshe or Moses, when he observed this thing as a burning bush, not as an anthropomorphic representation, but simply a burning bush, and he asked it, "Who shall I say sent me?" And it said, you know, in the tradition, people will say, he says, "I am that I am," but actually he said, "Ayahe Ashir Ayahe," which means it is what it is. When Moses asked what his name was, he said, "Whatever it is, that's what it is."
Right.
It is what it is. So Moses didn't get his name because he actually telling Moses, "None of your business what my name is." I can't give you my name because you have power over me. My name is secret.
Wow.
I'm Ayahe Ashir Ayahe. Whatever it is, that's what it is.
Powerful. Baba, if we've gone way over, no, I was going to just tell you we have like 10 more minutes. And even in the comments, like anybody that wants to add something, I'm definitely going to have you back, first of all. Because, yeah, there's no way we could just cover this. But I want to ask you some specifics because we also want people to support what you're doing. He also has a DVD and where he speaks in detail called First Was the Word, and that is available. But again, he is a master teacher, and I'm so proud to know you. But I also want to make sure that the people that do hear you and they know that you have power can also support what you're doing, so you can come back to Toni Hickman Presents and give us some more words. So
We'll do. Be more than happy to.
yeah.
I mean, it's what I do.
So what do you want to, what information do we need to give them so they can contact you to possibly get and please get your pen and paper. And I've seen First Was the Word. It's amazing, and I still can watch it again, and it's so detailed, just like this interview. It's so detailed, you have to go back and listen. But if you can get the wisdom that Baba has to offer, I promise it makes you a better person too. It helps you see yourself. But yeah, on that note, like, what information do we need to give for your DVD?
Well, the DVD is 4 hours long. It's more like a workshop than a lecture.
Yes. Okay.
And it gives you practical tools to be able to change your life. And it deals with subjects like etymology, linguistics, semantics, chromantics, history, Egypt, spirituality, religion. It's about 12 different subjects that DVD covers, and it's a overhead and a transparency projector presentation and board work where we deal with certain things. And my email is Jabade Powell, JABADEPOWELL @gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook at Jabade Powell. And
yes.
You hit me up, and I'll give you the information on how to download the DVD shelf for $30. It's a 4-hour workshop. And I did it some years ago, and people are still studying it right now because it's got different levels, and it covers many of the things that I'm talking about on this interview in graphic form, where we deal with it, where you can see it, and there's overhead and transparencies and board work and things of that nature that you hit me up, and then if you want a copy of it, I'll tell you how to download it.
Yeah, because he does have it where you can download it to your computer.
Or
Yeah,
whatever,
so
or whatever storage device you want to store it on. Once you download it, it becomes yours forever.
right.
It's not like you download it and it goes away. Once you download it and you save it, and it's yours. And most people watch it. I got students who still watching it right now.
I'm telling you, I mean, and I need to get my copy. I haven't gotten, I had one. No, don't think I didn't have one. I've had one, and then I need another one. So, yeah, but yeah, I encourage you to get the documentary, get the download, because when I tell you, he is a wealth of wisdom, and I look forward. And don't you have a book coming out?
Yeah, I'm writing a book right now. I'm really writing 5 books, but
Right.
I got 5 manuscripts, but I'm dealing with one book called Theological Function of the Devil, which is what we were initially was going to talk about tonight.
Right.
But
yeah,
I
we'll
got
come back. It's okay. We're going into 2023, and I definitely want to do. I want to do another one because I just, like I said, I just love you first of all. But
I
I
love you
love,
too.
yeah. But I love also that you are such a teacher, and you're a patient teacher, which is so valuable these days when so many people need to learn. So I appreciate you. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, sister.
And Rose
We
said
go way
Jabade
back.
is sharing knowledge that is invaluable. I missed the classes and Bible P. Yeah, I do too. And also she said, where can we give a love offering? Yes. Where can we give a love offering?
Just send it to my Zelle.
Okay.
And either use my phone
Or your
number, which is
email. We can use your email, right? For
yeah.
Zelle. Okay.
Yeah, Jabade Powell. And they may ask you about my government name, which is Shadre, Shadrach, Shadre.
And
And people
listen,
think
if
that
y'all want to, because you're on my live, if you don't know the information, or you can't remember it, or you're not around a pen right now, you can contact me in my inbox, and I promise you I will return the information to you, because yes, love offerings, all of that is wonderful. So yes. Yeah. Anybody else before we leave? It's almost 8:30. We did an hour and a half, Bob. I said I missed my class and everything. I know my cheekbones is just like, oh.
well, Brother Small and I was on Facebook Live Sunday, and we went for about 3 hours.
It was said, right. And I still
Yeah.
haven't watched all of that. I haven't watched all of it. I watched some of it. I saw the part where he was talking about when he met Malcolm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
So,
that's my brother. That's my brother
oh,
right
I
there.
know. I know.
We always have a good time.
Well,
And I got a lot of respect for him.
yeah, I mean, so many people do. And for you, like, so many have a lot of respect for you. And I know Professor Smalls has definitely, he's been out here a while on mainstream. So a lot of people know of him. And you're like this precious jewel that has not been dug up completely yet. Like, you're sparking, but I am so grateful to have gained so much wisdom from you, and I still have barely none compared to what's in your brain. I tell him I don't know if I'll ever catch up with him, because when I tell him that, and he said you're not gonna catch up with me because I'm still learning.
I'll never stop. I'm never gonna stop. Like people say, I want to get where you are. I said, well, you got a ways to go, because I ain't gonna never stop.
Right.
Because I deal with the saying that the airway people, the priest of the Bokono of the system of Fa, in the face of knowledge, the wise can only proclaim that I am a child. And the only thing that I know for certain is that I know nothing.
Right. Right. I know nothing. That's why even when I'm talking, I'm just like, yeah. That saying alone has helped me like redirect my ego so many times, you know, like, yeah. I know.
Yeah, that's one of the things a lot of us suffer from is ego.
Yeah.
But
Definitely.
I tell them life is a 100-story building. And I live in the basement.
Right. Wow. Okay, well, it's 8:31. And I'm gonna have you back in January at some point.
We'll do this. We'll do this again.
Yes. Thank
Then
you.
maybe that time the camera will be working.
Yeah, we're gonna get all of that straight, right? But even because I'm gonna pull shorts out of this, and I'll send it to you as well. I'm gonna pull shorts because you dropped so many bombs in here. It was just like mind blowing. So, but I'm gonna put a picture of you on there and your information. So when we share it, you know, people can see that and contact you for more information. So I'll put your email on when I share the shorts. I'll show you what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
No doubt.
All right. Thank you, Baba. We love you.
You're welcome.
And,
most graciously welcome.
Yes. And we'll talk.
Thank a lot of my old students for chiming in.
Yeah, now they're coming in, but we're about to leave. Baba said Jabade is a constant learner and teacher. Yes, he is. Thank you for teaching, Baba. Thank you to sister. You're welcome. I'm just a student just like you. Trust me. So, yeah. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Toni Hickman Presents. And we will be back in January. You are welcome, Knowledge of Self, Rose, and I'm so proud of you. And yes, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We are going to go ahead and click out of this, and we will see y'all in January. And I'm going to send. Go ahead.
And I apologize for that camera thing. I mean, we were working quite well about 6:30.
Yeah.
But,
yes, that's crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's okay because you don't have to see it to hear the wisdom. That's it. You know, you don't have to see it to hear the wisdom. And like I said, I'm going to cut and put a picture here if I can. And so every time I do the shorts, and I'm going to send them to you. And that way, yeah. And I'll put your information. I'm going to take care of it.
We'll be back in January.
We'll be back in January. I love y'all. Peace.
All right. Hotep.